Hello and welcome. I am Thomas Porteous and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top global news updates. The Trump administration has removed smartphones and other devices from the 145% tariffs on Chinese goods. It's the first major exemption in his trade policy against these Chinese goods. Iran and the United States have completed a first round of talks in Oman on Tehran's nuclear program, their highest meeting since 2018. The talks are set to continue next week. Israel says it has seized a key corridor in Gaza and will expand operations. Tens of thousands in the south have been ordered to evacuate. Meanwhile, Hamas claims an Israeli strike destroyed an intensive care and surgical unit in Gaza City. Authorities say no casualties have yet been reported. A Maryland man deported in error to an El Salvador mega prison is alive and well, according to US officials. This comes after the Supreme Court ordered the Trump administration to facilitate his return to the United States. Fighting between M23 rebels and government forces continue in eastern Congo. Authorities say 52 people have died in the fighting, although this has not been confirmed. The UK government is taking emergency control of British steel from a China-owned firm. Full nationalisation remains an option for the UK's last major steel plant. Ecuadorians head to the polls in a runoff election between a business-friendly incumbent and a left-wing tycoon in a polarised contest. In a significant shift, the Trump administration has exempted smartphones, computers, chips and other electronics from steep tariffs, including 120% levies on Chinese imports. The exemptions follow warnings from tech firms like Apple and Nvidia over high prices. US Customs and Border Control confirm that these goods will avoid both Trump's 10% global tariff and harsher China-specific taxes. Analysts call it a game changer for the tech industry. The White House says the move gives companies time to shift manufacturing to the US. However, these products still face a 20% China tariff linked to fentanyl. Trump defended the tariffs, citing strong US revenue and a strategic edge in trade talks. While most nations get a 90-day tariff pause, China faces a hike to 145% due to its retaliation. Apple is reportedly accelerating iPhone production in India. Let's take a listen to what Trump had to say.
I'll give you that answer on Monday. We'll be very specific on Monday.
Are you suggesting
we're taking in a lot of money. As a country, we're taking in a lot.
Let's turn to the Middle East now, where the US and Iran appear cautiously optimistic as high-level nuclear talks continue in Oman. Iran says Washington is pushing for a deal as soon as possible, while the White House describes the meeting as positive and constructive. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, who briefly met with US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, said both sides came very close to a basis for negotiation and warned against dragging talks out. Speaking aboard Air Force One, US President Donald Trump called the discussions okay, but added that nothing matters until you get it done. Both sides communicated through Oman's foreign minister, but reportedly exchanged direct words for a few minutes. Both nations say the tone was respectful. Iran, under economic strain, is eager to ease sanctions, while the US hopes to prevent Tehran's nuclear escalation. Abbas Araghchi also confirmed that the US and Iran will meet again next Saturday for a second round of nuclear talks. Discussions will remain high level, with Oman hosting, though the venue may change. Let's have a look at what he said after the meeting.
تو این جلسه من فکر می‌کنم به مبنای مذاکراتی خیلی نزدیک شدیم و اگر در جلسه آینده بتونیم مبنا رو قطعی بکنیم فکر می‌کنم که بخش زیادی از راه رو رفتیم و میتونیم بر اساس اون مبنا گفتگوهای واقعی رو شروع بکنیم. یک مذاکره بی حاصل، به اصطلاح گفتگو برای گفتگو، اتلاف وقت، مذاکرات فرسایشی اصلا نیستیم و هر دو طرف آمریکایی هم گفتند که اونها هم مطلوبشون یک توافقی هست که در کوتاه‌ترین زمان به دست بیاد، ولی خب این کار آسانی هم.
Turning now to other major developments in the Middle East, an Israeli airstrike destroyed parts of a hospital in Gaza City as Israel seized a corridor further south in the war-battered Palestinian territory and said it planned to expand its military operations. As per reports, there were no casualties in the strike. The Civil Defense Agency in the Hamas-run territory said that Israel's Air Force targeted a building of the Al-Alai Hospital, also known as the Baptist or Alai Arab Hospital in Gaza City after midnight. The report also said that the airstrike came minutes after the army's warning to evacuate this building of patients, the injured and their companions. The bombing has reportedly led to the destruction of the surgery building and the oxygen generation station for the intensive care units. Hospitals protected under international humanitarian law have repeatedly been hit by Israeli strikes in the Gaza Strip since the start of the war between Israel and Hamas. On Saturday, Israel announced it has completed construction of a new security corridor that cuts off the southern city of Rafah from the rest of Gaza, as the military said it would soon expand its operations in most of the small coastal territory. Let's move over to Europe now, where the UK government has taken control of British Steel after emergency legislation passed through Parliament in a rare Saturday sitting. This comes after Chinese owner Jing Hai threatened to shut down the Scunthorpe plant's blast furnaces. The move is aimed at preventing the closure of the Scunthorpe plant, which employs 2,700 people and produces essential steel. Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds confirmed that nationalisation of the plant is likely, with the government prepared to pay a fair market rate to shareholders, despite the plant's market value being close to zero. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer emphasised the importance of the steel industry for Britain's economy, calling it the backbone of our infrastructure. He assured steel workers that all options are on the table to secure the industry's future. Emergency law grants the government sweeping powers to ensure production continues, including the ability to forcibly enter the plant if necessary. Jingai, the plant's Chinese owner, will retain ownership for now. Let's have a look at what the House of Commons and the Trade Secretary have said.
That a message has been received from the Lords as follows. The Lords agree to the Steel Industry Special Measures Bill without amendment. I must report to the House that His Majesty the King has signified his royal assent to the following Act under the Royal Assent Act 1960.
Mr. Speaker, steel is fundamental to Britain's industrial strength, to our security and to our identity as a primary global power. Today's legislation will help ensure that we can retain that steelmaking capability here in the UK, both now and for years to come. For British workers' security, for British industry's future, and without hesitation in our national interest, and for the workers of British Steel, and for their families, this action today is essential, and I commend this bill to the House.
In other top news coming out of Africa, at least 8 people have been killed after a commercial bus hit a landmine on the Maiduguri-Damboa road in Nigeria's Borno state. The deadly explosion occurred on Saturday near Gidan Kaji, around 30 kilometres from Damboa town. Security sources and travellers confirmed that Boko Haram militants had planted the device. The landmines are a persistent threat in Nigeria's northeast, where Boko Haram has carried out years of violent insurgency. Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum said 7 critically injured victims are in intensive care, while 14 others sustained minor injuries. Visiting survivors in Maiduguri, the governor pledged to cover medical costs and called on security forces to step up efforts to secure the state's roads and protect civilians. Here is what he said.
8 lost their lives, about 7 were severely injured, and 14 experienced minor injuries.
Let's turn to Southeast Asia, where Chinese President Xi Jinping will pay a state visit to countries Vietnam, Malaysia and Cambodia from April the 14th to the 18th, aiming to strengthen ties and build a community with a shared future among neighbouring countries. In Vietnam, leaders and citizens hope the visit, deemed a strategic milestone, which will boost cooperation in trade, education and provincial partnerships. Xi's visit follows a recent high-level exchange between the two communist parties. In Malaysia, where Xi will visit April the 15th to the 17th, officials anticipate enhanced bilateral trade and deeper China association of Southeast Asian nations collaboration, especially as Malaysia chairs ASEAN in 2025. Cambodian leaders expect Xi's visit to further elevate strategic ties and regional peace efforts. Experts across all three nations view the trip as a sign of China's commitment to global cooperation, with hopes for a stronger economic, political and people-to-people ties. The visit is seen as a major diplomatic step forward for China and Southeast Asia. Let's hear what leaders had to say.
Diễn ra chưa đầy một năm sau chuyến thăm cấp nhà nước đến Trung Quốc của đồng chí Tổng Bí thư Tô Lâm, thì chuyến thăm cấp nhà nước đến Việt Nam lần này của Tổng Bí thư Chủ tịch nước Tập Cận Bình là một sự kiện chính trị đối ngoại quan trọng hàng đầu của hai đảng, hai nước, có ý nghĩa chiến lược. Nó sẽ tác động lâu dài đến sự phát triển của quan hệ Việt Trung trong bối cảnh hai nước đều đang bước vào một kỷ nguyên mới.
The expected visit by President Xi on the 15th through the 17th of April is hoped to help enhance bilateral relations between our two countries, and of course we look forward to enhancing also bilateral trade. China is an important trading partner for Malaysia, and in Malaysia's capacity as the chairman of ASEAN, there will definitely be a lot to discuss, and we look forward to hosting.
Let's shift our focus closer to China now, where the capital Beijing hunkered down as rare typhoon-like gales swept northern regions. This has forced the closure of historic sites and disrupting travel, while bringing late snowfalls and hailstone showers in some areas. The winds, which started on Friday, are set to continue over the weekend, packing gusts of up to 150 kilometres per hour. As per reports, winds had felled 703 trees in Beijing, while 693 flights have been cancelled at Beijing's two international airports, Beijing Capital and Beijing Daxing. Sandstorms raging over a stretch from Inner Mongolia to the Yangtze River region crippled road travel in 8 provinces, Xinhua and state broadcaster CCTV said. While strong winds bringing sand and dust from Mongolia are routine in spring, but climate change has made weather events more extreme. Moving on now, at least 3 people have died and over 150 have been arrested following violent clashes in West Bengal's Murshidabad district over the new WAQF Act. Today, scenes of destruction were visible across several parts of the district, with paramilitary forces patrolling empty streets. The Calcutta High Court, citing reports of vandalism in multiple districts, ordered the deployment of central forces in sensitive areas, stating it cannot ignore the law and order situation. Bengal's leader of opposition claimed Hindus are not safe in the state, while Chief Minister appealed for peace, accusing certain political parties of using religion for political gain. Nearly 300 BSF personnel already stationed in the area were joined by 5 additional companies deployed at the state government's request. Welcoming the High Court's decision, West Bengal BJP President and Union Minister held the Chief Minister responsible, blaming her government's handling of the situation and alleging appeasement politics. Staying in the Indian subcontinent, in a major update on the 2611 case, terror conspiracy, Rana, who is currently in National Investigation Agency custody, has made 3 key demands: a copy of the Quran, pen and paper, and all have been granted with strict supervision to ensure no misuse. NIA officials say Rana is offering namaz 5 times a day and is being treated like any other arrested individual with no special privileges. He's lodged inside a high-security cell at NIA headquarters in Delhi. This comes as the agency intensifies its probes into the wider conspiracy behind the 2008 Mumbai attacks. Rana, who is recently extradited from the United States, is also allowed to meet a court-appointed lawyer every alternative day and undergoes medical checks every 48 hours. Rana will now be in NIA custody and face trial in India. Moving over to South Korea now, where former President Yoon Suk-yeol is set to face his first criminal trial for insurrection after a short-lived imposition of martial law in December, which plunged the democratic country into political turmoil. Yoon sought to impose military rule on the country when he ordered the suspension of political activity and the censorship of media on December the 3rd. The decree lasted just 6 hours as it was voted down by opposition members of parliament. During a preliminary hearing in February, Yoon's lawyers argued that his detention had been flawed at an argument accepted by the High Court, leading to his release 52 days after his arrest. With Yoon's removal, South Korea is set to hold a snap election on June the 3rd to elect his successor. Until then, the country is governed by acting President Han Duck-soo. Let's move to Australia now, where the government said on Sunday it would spend a $10 billion sum on grants and loans to build up 100,000 homes to help would-be home buyers get on the property ladder. This comes ahead of a May the 3rd general election that has housing affordability as a key issue. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's government, which is neck and neck with the opposition Liberal National Coalition ahead of the national vote, has pledged to build 1.2 million homes by 2030 to ease cost pressures in Australia, where many are dissatisfied with a lack of affordable housing. The government, ahead of its campaign launch in Western Australia state capital, said if re-elected would partner with state developers and industry to roll out the home building plan reversed for the first home buyers to give them a fair go at owning their own home. Additionally, the government said it would guarantee a portion of a first home buyer's loan, allowing them to buy a home with 5% deposit. Over to South America now, where Ecuadorians are heading to the polls in a presidential election. The vote pits incumbent President Daniel Noboa against leftist challenger Luisa Gonzalez in a high-stakes runoff. Let's listen in to what Luisa Gonzalez had to say as she prepared for the election.
Bueno, mucha fe, mucha esperanza, mucha alegría, mucha paz. Eso siento.
Con optimismo.
Así es. En paz, en esa paz que te da Dios primero, la paz que te da el Señor, que sobrepasa todo entendimiento y que también nos da las encuestas. Eso es fundamental.
Noboa won the first round in February but fell short of an outright victory. He is campaigning on a tough on-crime platform responding to a surge in cartel violence that has turned Ecuador into one of Latin America's deadliest countries. Just ahead of the vote, he declared a 60-day state of emergency in the capital, Quito, and several other provinces. Noboa, the son of a billionaire banana tycoon, has deployed troops to the streets, arrested gang members and invited US special forces to help combat drug cartels. His high-profile raids and security push have been central to his campaign. His rival, 47-year-old Luisa Gonzalez, is running as a champion of the poor. A single mother from a modest background, she promises to improve social programs and address growing poverty, which now affects more than a quarter of the population. Once again returning to Africa, where Tanzania's top opposition party, Chama has been officially disqualified from contesting in this year's elections. The country's election commission says the party failed to sign a mandatory code of conduct, barring it from the upcoming presidential and parliamentary polls in October. They have also been barred from all by-elections until 2030. This comes just days after Chadma leader Tundu Lissu was charged with treason, accused of inciting rebellion and attempting to block the electoral process. Lissu was also not allowed to enter a plea and faces a possible death penalty. Chadma had earlier announced it would boycott the signing ceremony, demanding reforms to what it claims is a biased electoral system favouring the ruling party CCM. The government denies any wrongdoing or rights violations. We move to Europe, where a German Defence Ministry document reveals that many weapons from Germany have been supplied to Ukraine have technical flaws, limiting their combat effectiveness. Feedback from Ukrainian forces highlights these key issues, such as high ammunition costs, fragile systems and complex maintenance. The PZH-2000 howitzer reportedly malfunctions often, while Leopard tanks are seen as either inadequately protected or too complex to prepare quickly. A German officer in Ukraine noted that many weapons require repairs in distant western Ukrainian factories, reducing their frontline availability. As the Russia-Ukraine war drags on, Germany's new administration has yet to clarify its strategy, while public frustration grows over continued military aid. The effectiveness and sustainability of Germany's support remain under scrutiny amid mounting pressure at home and on the battlefield. Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba opened Expo 2025 Osaka, urging global unity amid ongoing conflicts and trade tensions. With the theme Life, World and the Future, the 6-month event on Yoshima Island hosts 180 countries, showcasing innovation in 80 uniquely designed pavilions. Central to the venue is $230 million Grand Ring, the world's largest wooden structure, symbolizing unity. However, soaring costs, now $1.64 billion, and construction delays have sparked criticism and slowed ticket sales, with only 9 million sold against a 14 million target. Russia is absent. A conflict-hit nations like Ukraine and Palestine faced preparation issues. Emperor Nahiro recalled his childhood visit to Expo 70 and expressed hope this event inspires youth despite setbacks. Japan aims for over 28 million visitors and hopes the Expo will foster dialogue and connection worldwide through shared experiences and future-focused innovation. Thousands of Hungarians rallied in Budapest on April the 12th in a satirical protest against Prime Minister Viktor Orbán's move to ban the annual LGBTQ+ Pride March. Organised by the satirical Two-Tailed Dog Party, protesters wore grey and carried sarcastic banners like "Death to Colours" and "Being uniform is cool," mocking the government's stance. Orbán's Fidesz party, citing child protection, passed a law last month banning Pride, sparking national and international criticism. While Fidesz claim to defend family values, opponents say the law is part of a broader crackdown on freedoms ahead of next year's election. Protesters ironically echoed authoritarian rhetoric. with one saying he should be allowed to express himself. The two-tailed dog party stated tongue-in-cheek that diversity is the root of all problems, outweighing issues like inflation, housing shortages and poor public services, spotlighting Hungary's growing political tensions. Well, that's all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more global news updates.